Assalamu alaikum everyone, and a very warm welcome to DSG webinar 4.0 episode 10. I'm Samiha Yunus, and it's an absolute pleasure to be with you all once again as we dive into another exciting topic. Also, today marks a special milestone for us as it's our 10th episode, and I'm thrilled that you've all been a part of this journey towards knowledge sharing and meaningful impact discussions on solar and sustainability. So, it is my absolute honor to introduce our distinguished guest for today, Ms. Ayesha Khan. Ms. Ayesha Khan is the Executive Director at RPI and accomplished entrepreneur. She has also served as the Chief Sustainability Officer at the Hashoo Group. And with over 26 years of experience across South Asia, Ms. Ayesha has worked with global institutions such as the World Bank, Asian Development Bank, European Union, and United Nations Industrial Development Organization, among many others. So, Ms. Ayesha, we are incredibly privileged to have you with us today. Welcome, ma'am. How are you doing today?
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here with you, discussing one of my favorite topics.
Ms. Our topic is something that deeply resonates with the challenges we face in the modern world, which is frugal innovation for clean energy. And of course, we're going to talk about the practical solutions for sustainable development. So we'll explore how creative and cost-effective approaches can lead to big changes in clean energy and sustainability. So as we all know that clean energy has become such a hot topic, especially when we look at its potential to uplift communities and in undeserved areas. So it can be a real game changer, both environmentally and economically. So can you start by sharing your thoughts on how innovative solutions in clean energy can drive economic development, particularly in undeserved areas?
Yes, thank you very much for this very focused question. I would like to just start with looking at the concept of frugal innovation. I'm really glad you picked it up. Well, just to establish that we're all on the same page, frugal innovation is a concept that focuses on doing more with less. And it's very, very relevant to our country, to all developing countries, especially to Pakistan. And especially as we transition towards clean energy, which is absolutely critical. Going to your question, there are several ways in which innovation can drive economic development. So, for example, job creation especially. And also what it does is improve labor productivity through improved health. In job creation, we need to install renewable energy equipment. We need to maintain it. So these are some of the ways we need to manufacture clean energy components. We need energy efficiency retrofits. So these are some ways that really facilitate driving economic development. Other ways are local economic growth, for example, stimulating entrepreneurship, encouraging diversification. And then in Pakistan especially, so as a practitioner, I'm speaking from I'm focusing on the Pakistan context. Access to energy is still a major challenge, especially in rural areas. And clean energy facilitates that. We've seen examples in Sindh and across Pakistan. Of course, we have hydel energy. We have seen solarization by corporates. So there's been a fair amount of electrification in rural areas. There's much more to do. Then we have infrastructure development. That's a bit of a challenge in our country. There is work on grid expansion and modernization, energy storage, although I believe, I look forward to discussions where this is quite a challenge still in Pakistan. But these are some of the concepts of frugal innovation. So frugal, of course, we're looking at a simplification, we're looking at optimization. So these are the underlying concepts of frugality, in innovative solutions for clean energy. I think I'll here and I'll give you an opportunity to ask others. I mean, I can elaborate more. Like we have innovative financing. That's also
Definitely.
something, what India did, our neighbor did in a decade ago, I believe, is the pay-as-you-go model. And
Mhm.
we haven't quite gotten to that on the kind of scale that is deserved and required in Pakistan. We have community-based funding. There are several projects. I mean, if you ask me questions, I can share examples across the
Sure,
country.
ma'am.
And then we do have green bonds and impact investing, but again, the scale required in Pakistan is not quite there. We have solar, wind, and hydro energy.
So,
Um,
ma'am, bringing clean energy to developing regions, there are always key economic factors that can either help or hinder long-term success. So, getting the balance right is so important. So, what do you think? What are some of the main economic factors to consider when implementing clean energy solutions in developing areas? And like, how do we make sure these solutions stay sustainable?
Well, like I mentioned, that the challenges that we have, is economic infrastructure, right? And that's the physical infrastructure. So, access, even something as simple as roads, and then the financing aspect of it. Also, human capital. So these are, some of the economic inputs that are very, very critical. The people's capacity, the technicians, the experts that are required. So sometimes we have the entrepreneurs. Our country, what I've noticed in Pakistan, there's a lot of creativity, a lot of initiative and innovation. But the challenge comes when we want to sustain these initiatives. And, for economic growth, even the policy environment is a local policy environment, that is required
Yes, correct.
also.
And
So
also, like we highlight the importance of community involvement in development projects. So I do agree that especially when it comes to clean energy, local communities are part of the process and things tend to work much better. So, oh, ma'am, how do you think like community participation impact the success of clean energy initiatives?
well, it's absolutely essential. So, I mean, as a development professional, I started my work with the Swiss government and we worked in the field, and the concept of seeing people as beneficiaries has, changed several decades ago. People in communities, they are active agents of change that we want to see. And that's how we should treat them when we intervene or when we go to a place, whether you're going as a corporate where you're working on a different project or whether you are invested in community development. So first of all is, there's a process, of course, and two things are, I think, very, very important. Sometimes we miss those. One is bringing them on board mentally, because frugal innovation is a mindset, whether it's at the policy level or the implementer level or the community level. It's about having a certain enthusiasm for using local resources to their optimal advantage. And people are a resource for economic development as well, but you cannot do very much with community if you do not engage them and you do not. You need to also train them or orient them in their own development. And that is something that I've practically done and experienced. And, these are best practices around the world in sustain. When we speak of having sustainable examples of clean energy intervention. So you're absolutely right. You need to have community participation and not just participation, but that's to sustain it. You have to hand it over to them. They have to then manage because they have to contribute. If not in terms of
Also,
finances,
most importantly, ma'am,
not
if we talk
afford, but in terms of their own time. Time is a resource, and they often give their time and labor.
So, if we talk about the policies, policies are also key when it comes to scaling up solar energy or some other clean energy projects. So without the right government support, even the best innovations can struggle to make an impact. So in your experience, what role do government policies play in fostering the growth of sustainable energy?
Well, my experience, and I think globally, it's just everyone's learning that they are critical for driving sustainable energy growth. I mean, wherever we see, it's been government policies that have facilitated economic growth and the
Are there any policies that
DSG. So, like, well, for example, having renewable energy portfolio standards. You have now I'm speaking, kind of broadly from a global perspective, kind of key policy drivers. So I'm just sharing a global best practice that there are tax incentives, there's net metering laws. And then nowadays, that we haven't explored as much are carbon markets and carbon pricing mechanisms. In the previous COP and Conference of Parties, and even this year in November, there will be a lot of discussion on carbon trading and carbon markets. Grid connection policies have to be clear. Again, energy storage incentives. We are talking about electric vehicles. There are policies towards that. Green banks and financing initiatives. So policy should be long-term. That is something that is an inherent challenge in the Pakistan context, that we don't have long-term policy stability and predictability. You cannot have economic growth if there is no policy stability and predictability, whether it's about energy or other things. A need to increase funding for research and development. Then we need enhanced grid resilience and flexibility, codes and efficiency standards. And these are the kind of policy improvements that are required. I think a couple of examples, best practices is Germany's energy transition policy, and then in the US, I think
we talk about partnerships between the public sector and local communities. So how can like collaboration between public sector and private companies like DSG, like DSG is also working in renewable energy sector. So how can we create more effective clean energy ecosystem, and how can these public and private sectors collaborate with each other?
Yeah, that's the only way to move forward. This is my experience when I was working for Hashoo Group. We initiated a project called SMART in the north of Gilgit, where no other NGO or government had gone. It stood for Sustainable Methods and Resilient Technologies, and we brought in local government. We partnered with the Mountain Agriculture. This was an agriculture-based project, Agriculture Research Council, and of course we had. Later on, we brought in the Germans and the Australians to see what we had done, but it was entirely the Pakistani sector. So you had Pakistani organizations, you had Hashoo Group, you had local government, and you had academia and research institutions. So DSG, with its unique expertise and experience, it can work in technology transfer, in training people, in L&D, and then the local community with, they need energy. So it's like, some people say it's a fundamental right. Not only is energy relevant for business, but also for education. You need the light for cooking. So just your standard of living, it supports that, a quality standard of living. So it's absolutely critical. I think something that DSG, I hope you explore, like L&D and technology, but in carbon trading, this is where you offset. I think this is an idea that will come to Pakistan all of a sudden. and then you can offset. You can get permits, and you can get your allowances, and then sometimes we don't use as much emissions, and we can sell
So,
our
ma'am,
credit.
as you have worked with various economic models, so given your expertise, what economic models do you believe are most effective in scaling up clean energy solutions, and how can frugal innovation fit into these models?
Okay, so one, generally, again, from experience and global examples, the effective economic models for scaling up of clean energy solutions, especially in developing countries, is what you had mentioned earlier, the public-private partnerships, where the private sector brings the investment, the efficiency, and, government, of course, has the outreach and access to the public, etc. So that is one model, economic model. The other is what has been under discussion, and it's happening in Pakistan, but not very visible, is the green financing mechanism. These are specialized financial instruments for clean energy. I've worked with UNIDO, so UNIDO has various projects World Bank supports various, the government and companies, and this is something we really need to, especially our listeners, can, more actively explore and reach out to. Then we have what is called results-based financing, and that's payment upon achievement of specific results. And non-profit organizations use crowdfunding and community-based fundings. Several NGOs have done that, where there's local investment in clean energy. In Pakistan, in the north, it's mostly focused on microhydels, and there are some villages that actually give free electricity to their adjacent villages. Others sell it. But again, like I said, it's happening on a small scale. We have our SRSP, the Sarhad Rural Support Program, doing that. And I had Hashoo Foundation do that as well when I was the country director. So you'll see that. Then I mentioned carbon trading. So you have your carbon markets and emissions trading. I'm not an expert in that, but that's very exciting. I think there's so much that can be done. And then we have pay as you go. Yeah, we have the pay as you go model. This is very pertinent for us, and especially in rural areas. It's a flexible payment plan. It's affordable for energy access, where the customers purchase the devices. And then you make an initial deposit, and then the customer pays for energy in installments, daily, weekly, so there's not a burden. Of course, you need a device. It has to be activated. You have to monitor it through a mobile app. If we have internet connectivity issues, it'll be a challenge. Otherwise, this is something that is very popular in South Asia. As I said, our neighboring country used it. Then we have energy service companies and, microfinancing models and microgrids for local energy infrastructure in remote areas. I think it's used in Sindh. Yeah. So there are about, 6, 7, 8 models. Maybe there's more. I just kind of shared the ones that I know and have experienced myself in my various roles. Yeah, but
right. So, ma'am, before proceeding, I would like to ask from our audience if they have any kind of questions, then they can definitely ask you, because today we are very, we are privileged that you have with us. So, if any one of you have any kind of questions, then you can ask and we can add in our session. So, moving on to our next question, ma'am, if we talk about the climate change. So, we're all feeling the effects of climate change, but vulnerable communities are often hit the hardest. So, climate change is pressing issue that affects developments. How do you think clean energy solutions can contribute to climate resilience in vulnerable communities?
Absolutely. Clean energy is, again, it's just so critical. It plays a vital role in mitigation. So, we have climate change mitigation and adaptation. In mitigation, it can contribute. And if we don't invest in measuring as much as we should in Pakistan, but if we do, with whatever effort we've made in climate change programs and initiatives, I think we can see some reduction in greenhouse gas emissions in some areas. What it does, the clean energy solutions, it decreases our dependence on fossil fuels. That's something we need to actively work on. It promotes what we have a lot of in Pakistan are the sustainable energy sources such as solar, wind, and hydro. And then the clean energy solutions, it helps in adaptation. And what it does, it facilitates access to energy for climate resilient infrastructure. So also we are working, I'm a member of this digital agri network in which we are working on climate smart agriculture. So that's what adaptation, this is a solution for enhancing climate resilience. And then, of course, providing energy for climate resilient water management. And there are various community benefits to clean energy, especially improvement in health. The kind of air pollution we have in Pakistan, especially in major cities, and even in the rural areas. And when the health is improved, your economic productivity is improved. And also, you see, it contributes greatly to energy security. I think that's one of the reasons we are working urgently on clean energy solutions, but we must be more active in these solutions because we are not an energy secure country. This is one of among many. This is one of our vulnerabilities. So these are the kind of.
So, Mr. Usama Tariq, he's watching our session, and he has asked a question that what challenges do innovators face when implementing frugal clean energy solutions in resource limited settings?
Yes, absolutely. It's the resources themselves that are not a challenge, because actually in several ways, Pakistan is a resource rich. But the challenges that we face is sadly the infrastructure that is available. And I had mentioned the economic infrastructure, which includes access to finance, along with physical infrastructure and the policy environment. We need, because investing in clean energy, let's say startups, businesses, or expanding your business, you need a substantial upfront investment, financial investment. And we know that that is quite challenging in Pakistan. And the current tax regime that we have seen is counterproductive. I feel it's counterintuitive for economic growth, but it's just counterproductive to investment in clean energy solutions. So I would there are a few smaller ones, but I would identify, kind of the policy environment and the infrastructure as the key challenges. And then, of course, I would add that, the skilled labor that is available, many have gone abroad to, work, to be compensated as per their skills and time in other countries. And we need to train labor over here in clean energy projects and initiatives and businesses.
Thank you. Thank you for the question, ma'am. Next, we have a question from Mr. Sneha Fazal. She's asking, how can existing clean energy technologies be modified through frugal innovation to reduce cost while maintaining efficiency?
Yes, good question. So, frugal innovation is about optimization, about simplicity. So, what does that? Yeah. So, what does that mean when you simplify? What you do is the design that you have, the models that you have. Um, let's take agriculture. What is frugal innovation in that? I mean, these are things village people have done, we've done. It has happened. It's just not that visible, and the scalability is not there. So, drip irrigation. And in the field, in our communities, people use these matkas, which are clay pots, and they bury them, and they punch a hole in them, and they use that in water scarce areas for. So this is also a frugal innovation in the agriculture sector. Um, um, if you're looking at AI or technology or other things, it's about how you unpack a design, you make it easy, and you look at it in a way where you use local resources. So whether you establish a restaurant or whichever, or whatever other businesses in which you need energy. It's how you utilize the local resources. So if you're working on a project in Sindh, you'd look at the local resources you have over there, and uh, make make those more cost efficient, and optimize their utility, and just have that a bit more creativity. So you focus on it being user centric. The frugal innovation aspect is the simplicity, its sustainability. You make it environment friendly, you use local materials, and you focus on users, on the local users.
All right. So, ma'am, um, you're entrepreneur yourself as well. So, what advice would you give to entrepreneurs and organizations looking to innovate in clean energy space while also considering economic stability?
Yeah. So, entrepreneurs, one, of course, the definition is never to give up and to persevere. We have a lot around us, and as an entrepreneur, we need to, make a thorough assessment of the resources that are around us, including people and including material goods. So we need to conduct a thorough market research and analysis, then look at the adaptable solutions. And what is very critical for sustainability, and especially keeping the current Pakistan context in mind, is to um, invest in sound, strong partnerships with stakeholders. That means with the government, as much as we can. It has to be very strategic. It's very, very challenging. All of us have found this working with government, but there are good people in local government. Then partnering with industry, I think that's exciting. That's something that with larger corporates, you look at the Engro, you look at HBL. HBL has invested in green buildings, and then communities. And then as an entrepreneur, you look at economic viability through cost-effective designs and financing models. And then, kind of internalize the circular economy concept, which means really looking at reducing waste, looking at what can be recycled. I mean, in Pakistan, in Islamabad, one of the roads that we have is made up entirely of recyclable plastic, plastic bottles. In Dubai, you have T-shirts that they make from from disposable plastic, the bottle plastic. So, and in fact, I met with somebody, an industrialist who this is brought in 20 years ago. He bought machinery from Holland for making carpets from, disposable plastics. So that is an area people haven't invested in. And there are things that are going on and have gone on for, the last 2 decades, but people stay under the radar from government, especially because, there's a trust deficit there, and there isn't much support from the government for business and economic activity in clean energy. But entrepreneurs, just to sum up very quickly, is do their homework, persevere, and partner. So.
All right. So, ma'am, with that, we've reached the end of today's session, and it's been such a pleasure to hear from you, Ms. Ayesha, and your insights on frugal innovation and sustainability. I think we've learned a lot today. Your depth of experience has really brought so much value to this conversation. Well, thank you. Thank you so much, ma'am, for taking your precious time for this session.
Thank you very much. I'm available, and I look forward to helping as I can. Okay, thank you very much. Yeah, whenever I'm an entrepreneur coach also, so I've helped establish several enterprises and businesses. So happy to have the opportunity to speak here and discuss.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Collaborations. Thank you, ma'am. And to everyone who tuned in, thank you for joining us and being part of this webinar. And as always, stay curious, stay informed, and most importantly, stay committed to creating a better and more sustainable future. This is Samiha Yunus signing off for today. And I'll see you again in next episode. Until then, take care of yourself. Allah Hafiz.